Hey everybody, sorry I wasn't able to make it today. I ended up with a conflict, but I did want to share a little bit about how we're using SmartForms at WSCSU. We have a couple of different things we're using it for right now: our student intervention and referral plan, collaborative problem solving, a few other things are in here. But one of the main things that I was tasked with this year was how do we track our risk and threat assessments. We're trying to have a more collaborative approach, a more wraparound approach when a student makes a threat to themselves or to others or to the school. And we're following some of the new state guidelines around conducting risk and threat assessments and having a school crisis team. So what I did is we have these threat assessments right here. So if a student makes a threat to themselves, like they're going to harm themselves, then whoever does that risk assessment would complete this form. A couple of things that we were able to do is restrict access. So what we wanted to make sure is that teachers, just general teachers, don't have access to the forms. I mean, a lot of times we're talking about information that that might be highly confidential for that individual student or their families in both the risk assessment and threat assessment. So we wanted to really minimize who's having access. So in order to do that, if you click right here under form restrictions and you blow that out, you can see that I made one form for every school. So each school has a risk assessment for threat against themselves, a threat against others assessment. If a student has moderate or high risk on the threat to others, then there's a school threat assessment team that comes together and they complete the school threat assessment. In this form, you can see this is just for this one individual school. And I added these people to it, so they have full access to be able to see them, edit them, create them, all of those kinds of things. What we learned is that if they were to complete this form, the form number, like when you go to the student's profile page, there's the little form box up at the top, and it says number 1, 2, or 3, how many forms they have. That number will show up, but when the teacher clicks on it, or anybody who's not these people click on it, they won't be able to see the form itself. They won't be able to click on anything. Nothing shows up there. So even though it says 2, let's say, because they have 2 forms, maybe they can only see the one form because they can't see that this one was ever created. Okay? So that was one big piece to this. I want to go into this one right here. Actually, no, I want to go into the threat against others form right here. So this one's set up in the same way. We make sure that they have enough room to type all their answers, make a plan, risk factors, all of those kinds of things. Again, this came directly from the state documentation system. Down at the bottom is where they have high risk, moderate risk, low risk, and based on those responses, it has exactly what they're supposed to do about that information, and one of them is schedule a crisis team meeting. The other thing that was really helpful about this is when you click right up here in this little button right here and you go to edit subscribers, what this means is that these people here are going to get an email anytime this form is edited. So the other permissions you saw just mean that they can create them and they can see them. But what we wanted to make sure is that the principals and the superintendent received an email anytime that form was created because there's a certain response protocol that we have to have. Like, for example, if it's a moderate or high risk, then the superintendent needs to send a letter to the community. So this way, we don't miss a step. There's no, don't forget you have to send an email when you create this to this principal, and then the principal sends it to the superintendent. It just automatically goes out. It doesn't mean that those other communications aren't happening, but we wanted to automatize it quite a bit more just so that those steps weren't missed, because they were in some cases, and we just can't drop the ball on something so very important. So adding subscribers was the way to do that. You can do that for a lot of different things. Let's say you have EST plans and you want to make sure that the principal is notified anytime a new EST plan is developed. You can do it there. If you have collaborative problem-solving plans or safety plans created and you want to make sure the school counselor is notified every time one is created or completed by somebody else, having that subscribers field is really, really helpful to be able to make sure that our communication is clear. The way that we're using this information is when we go into this section here, and I minimize the names because you can sometimes see student names in there, so I wanted to be sure I minimize that. But what we really wanted to be able to use it for is for sorting. So the superintendent wanted to be able to go in and sort by form. So she wanted to be able to say, I want to see every school threat assessment that was created in every building for the year, right? And so she can go in, she can sort by this. That might be all of them. And click search, and she's going to be able to see that here so that she can tell how many were done. She can keep all of that data every single year. The other piece is for the wraparound support system to be able to easily access if you have a student who has had multiple school threat assessments completed. You can see that all in one place. If we need to print that off and give them to the HCRS or DCF or something along those lines, all of that information is right there. And we'll be able to much more carefully be able to monitor our students who are more of a high risk so that we can put wraparound supports in place. So if you have a student who's got 5 risk assessments in a year and you haven't done anything about that because maybe one counselor did it one time, a different counselor did it another time, maybe the principal did it once and you didn't communicate well, then you might not know that that student had that many risk assessments completed. So having it right here in one spot is super duper helpful, and we'll be able to monitor that progress over time using this feature. So we've really liked it so far, and we're going to continue using it in this way over time and see how it goes. But feel free to reach out if you have any questions about how we're using the SmartForm feature in this way in order to kind of monitor the new state rules around the crisis teams and tracking risk factors. So thanks so much, and again, don't hesitate to reach out.